All right, good evening. We're going to be doing this a lot like a fellow YouTuber that I see. I've seen other YouTubers do it. His name is V. And today we're talking about Bloomberg. Sorry, let me switch screens. I kind of gave away the game. But Bloomberg View, they are, I think, the editorial page for Bloomberg Magazine and the news network. I think it's still owned mostly by Michael Bloomberg, who was also mayor of New York City. And what we're talking about today is a double standard when it comes to whether the law is the law or it's just, whatever we want it to be. And I'm not a legal expert, but it's been weird. I've been having to comment on a lot of legal opinions lately or legal issues. And it's really annoying, first of all, because I'm kind of fulfilling unwittingly what my dad keeps saying, which is that I should have been a lawyer or whatever. I think the reason I didn't want to be a lawyer is because I don't like the crowd. And I actually like working with engineers a little more, even though today was pretty difficult at my job. But let's jump right into it. Okay, so if you've watched any of my videos or a lot of my videos, you'll know that my favorite current issue, my favorite current topic is the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. It is my number one, crusade. I'm trying to get it repealed. I'm trying to help other people stay loyal to getting it repealed. It might be that we might have to do it in a couple stages. The way it was presented last month was the wrong way to go about it. I think we can do better as opponents of it. It doesn't matter what party you're in. In fact, I'll show you possibly later in this video that progressives are starting to wisen up that it's a complete and total fiasco. It's one of the worst bills of all time. Doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. So what's been happening lately is that if you've watched the video, I think I put it out Friday, which is where I call it the Ho Chi Minh Trail of journalism, where the Obamacare supporters and President Obama possibly, they keep trotting out people that are acting as his supply line for saving Obamacare, even though if you really watch what's happening, it's not sustainable. It's basically a system that is born to fail. It's born to fail. It was set up to fail. If we keep trying to sustain it, I can promise you personally that even if it does survive on federal subsidies, that doesn't mean that people's insurance is going to be more affordable. And at a certain point, we're going to reach a crisis level and people will request and demand, is the proper term, single-payer health care, which is, for me, that is something that I will do anything to prevent. And that means things that I don't even want to talk about here. I really think that government takeover of healthcare is the wrong way to go. And those of you that think otherwise are free to contact me and tell me why I'm wrong. I'll seriously listen to your suggestion and I'll reply. And I'll post the contact information in the description as far as the Facebook page. You can message there. Or you can actually, just put a comment down below. But let's get into this. Okay, so Bloomberg put out an editorial 3 days ago called "Congress Can Easily Keep the Healthcare Market Stable." And they say, as Congress threatens again to replace the Affordable Care Act, or try to, along comes further evidence of how well the law is working. Overall, insurers on Obamacare's exchanges are doing well, and almost all of them say they intend to participate next year, as the Congressional Budget Office has suggested they would. This is pure lies. It is probably one of the biggest. Bloomberg should know better. Aetna, United, which already has pulled out, Anthem, they've all declared that they're either pulling out from part or all of the exchange. And you will see and it's already been told that there are states or areas of states where Obamacare is basically a dead zone, or that there's only one alternative. And the point is, okay, they're talking about saving Obamacare. Saving a law is not the intention. Okay, we didn't pass Obamacare in 2010. And by we, I mean we as a country. I didn't support it in 2010 either. I didn't know that much about it either. But I was not active in politics at the time, or like on political issues. I wasn't talking to anybody about it. But even the people that did support it and do support it today, or maybe not today, the intention wasn't to save Obamacare. It was to make healthcare affordable and more available to more Americans at a lower price, obviously, because it has to be affordable, like I said, and to allow for the market to become more diversified. That was the statement of why it was done. But in reality, if you look at all the mechanisms in the law, it's a price-fixing law. It's subsidies. You have the pre-existing conditions issue, where you're basically loading the market with, or loading the exchanges with people that are going to file a lot of claims. Okay, all of those mechanisms, all of those inclusive statutes within Obamacare were built to make this law almost unsustainable, such that this current effort to quote-unquote save Obamacare is just a disgrace. It's a lie that people have to start really being honest about. And Bloomberg starts in this article by telling a huge lie by saying that Aetna intended that, or not Aetna, but the insurance companies are not abandoning Obamacare. Let me pause here. Okay, I have this ready. If we've started again, this is Bloomberg from just a few weeks ago, March 30th. They said Obamacare stalwart Anthem seen likely to retreat for 2018. Anthem is one of the two largest insurance companies in the United States. And they say in the first paragraph, Anthem Incorporated is likely to pull back from Obamacare's individual insurance markets in a big way for next year, according to a report from analysts who said they met with the company, a move that could limit coverage options for consumers at a politically crucial time for the law. So, and it says Anthem is leaning toward exiting a high percentage of the 144 ratings regions in which it currently participates. And this is from Bloomberg News. Okay, so when it comes to Bloomberg View, they're disconnected from their own news. Either they're disconnected from their own news, they're not reading their own news, or they're lying about their news, or this is a lie. And you have to pick one. You cannot say that these insurance companies are staying on Obamacare and that the market will stabilize if you are reporting the exact opposite. You can't say that in an editorial column, okay? And Anthem and Humana are the largest insurance companies on the exchange. Here, let me show Humana. This was February 15th, okay? This was February 15th. So on February 15th, it said, death knells and death spirals and recriminations, oh my. And it said that Humana was withdrawing from Obamacare. She says, Megan McArdle, she says, the last 24 hours have been one long string of bad news for Obamacare. Tuesday, the insurer Humana announced that it would be pulling out of the exchanges for next year. Then we found out that the IRS had responded to Trump's executive order on Obamacare by quietly rolling back a new rule planned for this year, which would have required flyers to indicate whether they had maintained coverage in 2016 or to pay a penalty. So, look, this is not. I mean, the Democrats all the time cry about settled science. I'm talking here about settled opinions. Okay, if Bloomberg wants to promote Obamacare as a program that's able to be saved. They can't be talking, they can't be reporting on its collapse and then denying that it's happening in its editorials. Okay, so let's keep reading. This isn't really the thrust of this article, of this editorial rather, but here's just what they're saying. They say there's just one wrinkle, just one little wrinkle. That's what they say. Their participation depends on the federal government continuing to reimburse them for the billions of dollars they spend to keep co-payments and deductibles affordable for millions of low-income policyholders. It sounds like a technicality and is, but it's one that has been turned into a dangerous political device. Congress needs to put it aside by funding the payments in next week's spending bill. The trouble began 3 years ago when the House of Representatives sued the Obama administration for making the quote-unquote cost-sharing payments in an obvious bid to undermine the individual insurance market and see Obamacare fail. House Republicans argued that the payments had not been properly appropriated by Congress. A district court agreed with their argument, but allowed the payments to continue while the administration appealed. That was the Obama administration, okay? Donald Trump's administration has continued to make the payments, but the president is now threatening to stop them. He says in an attempt to persuade Democrats to help him kill Obamacare. Well, that's actually up to Trump to do. Now that he's in control of the Justice Department, and there's a federal ruling, and remember, in this article, they leave out the word federal. They just say a district court. A district court doesn't carry the same punch when you say it as federal district court. And we have an issue here where this article is deliberately being deceptive. They're trying to make it seem like it's just an issue, you know, that Trump is trying to deny Obamacare the money that it deserves. No. What was happening was that this was money that was not earmarked for Obamacare. It was not budgeted for Obamacare, that the government was illegally appropriating without congressional approval, and they lost in court. President Obama lost in court, and they appealed to the Supreme. They're appealing. I guess it would go to the Supreme Court, and if they would go to the Supreme Court, there would be the same issue as with Trump's border wall problem. Donald Trump wants the border wall. He wants the money for it. Guess what? He has to get the money from who? From Congress. Okay. So if Bloomberg thinks that this is a small little detail, and that in reality, President Obama could have just taken the money without asking from Congress, then it goes the same thing for the wall. President Trump can just take the wall right now. Just take all the money for the wall. That's how it works. So spare me this nonsense about how, you know, it's our little wrinkle, okay? You know very well, Bloomberg View, how we get our money allocated for whatever use the federal government needs it for. And you don't want to use the word federal when talking about the district court. Yes, it was a district court. I've put the Forbes article about the ruling on 3 or 4 videos by now. This is a federal court ruling. Then it says, this explains why Speaker Paul Ryan and other House Republicans have said that cost-sharing payments should continue, even as work on an ACA replacement continues. Yet so far, they have left things in Trump's unpredictable hands. They need to bring the matter back into their own court, appropriate the necessary money, $7 billion this year, $10 billion in 2018, and take this risk to Americans' health care security off the table. And then it says David Shipley. David Shipley, I guess, is the guy responsible. But this is an editorial, okay? It's the editorial board published this. This means all of Bloomberg. This means that this is the position of that news network, okay? Now, let me tell you what the problem is. Bloomberg, they won't abide by. They don't think that this federal district court ruling is a big enough authority to explain why President Obama couldn't just steal money from the federal treasury. They don't think it is. Okay, fine. What you should say is, let it be decided by the Supreme Court. All they had to do was say, President Trump, defend this before the Supreme Court. Okay, instead, they wanted to go to Paul Ryan and say, look, we know you sued Congress 3 or 4 years ago and that you won in federal court. Maybe you should just keep it going, ignore President Trump, and just keep the money rolling, even though you know it's illegal. So basically, you should break a law. You should help break a law that you know is actually not, it's been broken before, and you should legitimize it, okay? And by legitimizing, I mean he should go to Congress and say, yes, now we're going to legitimize this money, which until now was stolen. We're just going to give it now. So we're going to legitimize this theft. We're going to make it so that this disgrace of a law, this disgrace of a process where for years Americans were told this is how much we're going to be paying into Obamacare, and that's how we're going to save the money. No, what happened was the subsidies were not enough. All these insurers left the market. Now the premiums are higher. The subsidies have to be higher. Everything is out of whack with the law. Nothing has worked. The mechanisms have completely fallen apart. How many exchanges had to go under? How many of these things have gone wrong before these frauds? Who they're supposed to be the financial experts, not me. I'm just I just work as a mechanical engineer, okay? And not a very sophisticated one, I might add. But I'm just a simple engineer. I don't do any of this number crunching for them. I can only go by what they're publicizing in the paper. So I guess Bloomberg doesn't think that federal court rulings are serious enough. But here we have on January 29th, Trump's travel ban is un-American and unwise. Okay? So that's their opinion even before there was a federal ruling. Okay? So they jumped the gun. Now let's see what they say about the federal ruling itself. So on March 6th, the first article that I feature is the one about Bloomberg addressing the appropriations. Okay, they say that despite the federal court ruling, Congress should still give the fucking money to Obamacare. That's why. While denying, and actively, they're deceiving the American public by saying that insurance companies are not leaving Obamacare. They are. They're leaving Obamacare. So here so the second one I showed you was the news article that accurately talks about Humana leaving, and then Anthem leaving. Now the third one was, okay, I'm just keeping order. The third one was their opinion regarding the travel ban before there was a court ruling. Now on March 6th, this is their opinion after the travel ban was overturned by the federal court. It says Trump's un-American travel ban part 2. And then it says, in the courts, meanwhile, controversial policies are routinely put on hold until full hearings can be held. When this happened with the previous version of the travel ban last month, Trump accused the so-called judge of putting the country in peril. If something happens, Trump tweeted, blame him and the court system. Sorry, Mr. President, the buck stops on your desk. Presidents are responsible for upholding both the nation's security and the rule of law. This is not an either-or proposition. Attempting to shift blame to the judiciary for future terrorist attacks is gutless and duplicitous. Too few Republicans objected to Trump's belittling and bullying comments. But, okay, then it talks about Gorsuch. Gorsuch didn't like it either. And it says the genius of the U.S. Constitution is the checks and balances it places on the three branches of government. The separation of powers is essential to the preservation of individual rights and the survival of the nation's democracy. And then it says, as much as Trump loves winning, he will face judicial and legislative setbacks during his term, as every president does. He needs to understand that losing with dignity, or at least a bit of decorum, is part of his job. And it's the same guy, David Shipley. So I'm going to send this video to Dave Shipley. And listen, Mr. Shipley, you're fucking lying to the American people, okay? First of all, there's the issue where you denied that insurance companies are leaving Obamacare. They're leaving. They've been leaving, okay? They've been leaving. They have. Okay, so stop being a fucking liar. Okay? And then you want to talk about his obligation to abide by the judiciary, the checks and balances and whatever. What about President Obama's obligation to abide by the judiciary? What about the time that he trashed Chief Justice Roberts over his ruling on the Citizens United case, okay? That was him basically venting about a decision that didn't go his way. Okay, so Trump was venting about the decision on the travel ban. Okay, so if you want to say the judiciary is above all, you know, okay, let's assume that. But then you want to say to Paul Ryan, oh, you know, you got this district court ruling. You can just ignore it. You know, you don't have to abide by it. Okay, and you're saying to President Trump too, you know, while you said in part 2 of your travel ban editorial, you're saying, you know, it's his responsibility to uphold the law and keep Americans secure and whatever. Well, maybe you should uphold the law by not funding Obamacare. Maybe Paul Ryan should do so too. Paul Ryan filed a suit and he won. Okay, and the ruling went as such, and it was ruled by the court, a federal district court, that this was an illegal appropriation. Okay. Now, the travel ban, I believe, was ruled also illegal by a circuit court, okay? But the fact is that you can't go and use the judiciary as your safeguard when it fits you and then treat it as irrelevant when it's a convenient instrument to attack Donald Trump. Okay? When you want to attack Donald Trump because you support Obamacare, for false reasons, by the way, you're basically lying and lying by omission. Not even omission. You actually, it's a direct lie. Okay? You say that the insurance companies are not leaving Obamacare. They are. They are. Your paper has been reporting it. Okay? Don't play games with me. Don't play games with people that have seen this disgusting abomination ruin their prospect of getting proper health care, or even just a quote, or even knowing their rights as a patient, okay? And I'm not going to hear you or watch this disgusting basic kamikaze campaign by the Obamacare Defense League, the Ho Chi Minh Trail of journalists. I'm not going to watch it sitting down. I'm going to attack it every single time I can. Okay? I'm not a journalist. I'm using your material. Okay? Your material, Bloomberg. Most of the articles I've been using today from Bloomberg. So don't pretend that we are the ones that are fear-mongering. I think it's your paper that's been reporting all of this. So let's talk about what you should be doing. You should be telling the American people the truth about Obamacare, telling them that this was a price-fixing scheme. This was a plot to undermine the idea that the private sector can help people reach an insurance plan. Okay, this was a plot to prove that the private sector is a failure. It was a plot to show that insurance companies are greedy, okay? The insurance companies are greedy. You don't need some sort of failed experiment to prove that. What you need is a solution, and the solution is to give back the sovereignty of the people to them. Stop with these ridiculous regulations, this crazy package where dudes are getting plans where they get, what is it, like mammograms or something? They get basically prenatal care, and women are getting prostate care and whatever. You can dispense with that, okay? Now, I'm going to cut away one last fuck you to Bloomberg News and David Shipley, okay? And we're going to show a small clip of the Humanist Report's reporting of the progressives confronting the truth about Obamacare. I think this was in Nevada.
nobody can dispute the fact that the Affordable Care Act has been a huge failure, and the only way that you can end this healthcare debate once and for all is to move towards a Medicare for all system. And what progressives
have Medicare for all, we're going to show you and save your life.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for coming forward. Let me just say this. Nobody should die because they cannot access health care, and nobody should go bankrupt because they can't afford it in this country. And if we're starting with that as the premise and the solution,
have Medicare for all.
So he starts off saying that there should be no, that Obamacare is a failure. Okay, sorry, I didn't know that it was rolling. But he starts off by saying that Obamacare is a failure. Then this is what he shows from the meeting with Senator Cortez Masto.
We're going to show you and save your life.
yeah, thank you. And thank you for coming forward. Let me just say this. Nobody should die because they cannot access health care, and nobody should go bankrupt because they can't afford it in this country. And if we're starting with that as the premise and the solution to health care for everyone, then we're going to work together in a bipartisan manner to figure out how we can make that happen. But I'll tell you what, it does not start with repealing the Affordable Care Act. Because and for me, I can guarantee you this, it is about improving and working on what doesn't work right now in the Affordable Care Act and making sure we are getting everyone access to affordable health care in this country.
So I want to pinpoint the keywords that she's using there that all.
Watch what Figueredo says here. This is something that we've been saying for years, and the progressives are now saying openly for the first time, possibly, well, some of them were saying it back then, but they weren't saying it so loudly. The Affordable Care Act, the access or whatever, it's a bunch of bullshit. If there is no health insurance to offer, there is no access. Let me keep him rolling.
All Democrats are using. She said everyone should get access to health care. Well, access doesn't actually translate into health care. Access to insurance means nothing if you can't afford it. David's daughter had access to health care.
He misses the part that if it's not existent, if there's a dead zone, if it's not even offered, then there is no access, which is what's going to happen with Obamacare. It's what's going to happen with Obamacare. Now let's see if he says that's something else intelligent.
Technically, but she couldn't get insurance and she died. So after hearing David's poignant story, her answer was no, I will not get on board with the Medicare for All system. That's effectively what she said. Now, thankfully, her constituents were not having it and they were not willing to let it go.
Why haven't you come out on the record in favor of Medicare for all? Yes! Because with zero people uninsured. And it's the cheapest plan. That's it. Thank you.
No, first of all, let me just say, I think with the Affordable Care Act, what works we should keep. Absolutely. And for the very reasons you said. What works, no, listen.
So understand.
Okay, so I can't keep going. I'm trying to keep it under a half hour. Maybe I'll make another video based on this video. Sorry to Mike Figueredo for kind of jacking his thing. He never responds to my stuff anyway. But look, you heard these people moaning that it's not working. These are progressives, okay? The jig is up. The jig is up. So fuck you, David Shipley, and fuck you, Ho Chi Minh Trail, Obamacare journalism. We're onto you, and we're not going to let you keep going with this bullshit policy that's been fucking us for the past 4 or 5 years. Good night. This is Ramon with Bold Like a Leopard. Bold Like a Leopard will continue to fight Obamacare, and you can find us at all the links below. Have a great night, and we'll talk to you soon.